Everyone, welcome to the City of San Juan Commission meeting today, August 25th, 2015 at 6:06. If we can rise for the invocation. Chief Gonzalez, can you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, please bow our heads. Dear Lord, we come before you in tonight's meeting. Give us the blessings and the wisdom and the knowledge to make the right decision for the City of San Juan. Lay a hand over all of them that are in need and protect them and give them the blessings every day. In your name we pray.
Amen. We can face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all may be seated. Next item on the agenda are public comments, and I've got Agenda. Under A, presentations, it's a presentation of Matias Serna, national gold medalist with the USATF Junior Olympics in race walking and member of the USA team competition at USA Race Walking match. I want to tell you a little bit about Matias. First and above all, disclosure, he is my nephew, but it's not because he's my nephew that is here. I wanted to share with the community, as we have in many other meetings that we have featuring some of the talent that we have locally. Matias is from San Juan, and this summer he is in race walking and has competed for several years. And this summer, on June 27, 2015, he competed in the 2015 USA Track and Field Outdoor Championships in Eugene, Oregon, where he was placed 4, and because of that competition, he qualified to represent the United States team, junior team in race walking. And in July 28, 2015, in Jacksonville, Florida, he also competed in the USATF Junior Olympics, where he placed first place and earned a gold medal. This past weekend, he traveled to Albany, New York, in which he competed in an international race, the United States versus Canada. And I can tell you that the United States team took the gold medal, and he placed 4 amongst the USA group, and 6 on the overall competition. And so I'd like to recognize Matias Ernesto Serna for his work and accomplishments in representing not just San Juan, not just Texas, but the United States in these past competition. I'd like to call him forward. Matias, if you can come forward. Accomplishment stating exactly what I just read, and he is 16 years old, and he's got many years still ahead of him, so I think that he's done good. We can take a picture with him, Mayor? Yes, we can come.
One more. 1, 2, 3. There.
All right, Matias. And his aunt was there to cheer him on. Under item B, this is a proclamation proclaiming August 31st, 2015 as the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Day. Is there somebody here to receive the proclamation? Can you come to the podium and tell us exactly what's going on, and we'll read the proclamation for you.
Mayor Sanchez, my name is Richard Sanchez. No relation. I'm not your nephew
right.
or anything. I'm the Associate Vice President for Governmental Relations at UTRGV, and I'm here on behalf of our President, Dr. Guy Bailey, mostly to thank you for being a part of this and supporting the school and doing this proclamation for us. So what we did was ask the vast majority of the cities across the valley to adopt this same proclamation. And in fact, San Juan is the final city of those scheduled to do it. So this is the last one we've done. Done about 27 or 8, plus the 4 counties in the Rio Grande Valley. So we're very appreciative, and I hope that you'll read it so everybody can
I am going to read that, and you'll be able to show us the flag when I'm done reading. That's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The proclamation states as follows. The University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Day. Whereas the 83rd Texas legislation on May 23rd of 2013 establishing a university of the first class in South Texas, and the governor of Texas signed the bill into law on June 14th, 2013, and whereas comprised of the assets, human resources, and institutional knowledge of two renowned legacy institutes, the University of Texas Brownsville and the University of Texas Pan American, the regional academic health centers in Edinburgh and Harlingen, and with the addition of a long-awaited medical school, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley will transform the academic and economical landscape of South Texas, and where the Texas Constitution provides that the university is entitled to participate in the Permanent University Fund, and the University of Texas System Board of Regents has to date located hundreds of millions of dollars to the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. And whereas the university has adopted the vaquero as its official mascot, the original South Texas Vaqueros being the pioneers of the region and were precursors of the modern-day American cowboy. And whereas the people of the Rio Grande Valley and the leaders of its local governments, institutions, and businesses and households have exhibited an outpouring of support for the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. And whereas UTRGV is situated in the most dynamic region of Texas, it will be a gateway to the Americas by creating a university that is bilingual, bicultural, and literal. And whereas UTRGV will welcome its inaugural class of students August 31st, 2015, as the first major public university in Texas to be established in the 21st century, expecting an overall student enrollment of approximately 30,000 students, making it the second largest Hispanic serving institute in the nation. Now, therefore, I, San Juanita Sanchez, Mayor of the City of San Juan, along with Mayor Pro Tem Jesus Jesse Ramirez, Commissioners Mario Garza, Raudel Maldonado, and Shea Cantu, hereby proclaim August 31st, 2015 as the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley Day for the City of San Juan, Texas, and further proclaim that the flag or banner of the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley will be flown prominently within the City of San Juan on August 31st, 2015 in honor of the university's opening and as a symbol of support by the City of San Juan. Congratulations.
Again, thank you, Mayor.
To the whole community.
Thank you. Let me just add, we've been given a great opportunity here in the Valley. The legislature passed this in 2013. The University of Texas system has allocated nearly $500 million to the Valley, from Brownsville to Edinburgh, mostly in buildings, but also for programs. There's been a lot of expansion of programs, a lot of opportunity. So along with that comes a lot of responsibility and expectation. So we're going to look to all of our cities and counties here and the people of the Valley to support us and help us do it right. We want to be an institution that lifts up the entire Valley. So with your help, we'll get there. We appreciate it. I have a small token of our appreciation. Yes, please. I've got a little bag here. It's a small but very stylish token, like I'm here. On my
Next on the agenda, under item C, presentation on the application process for the proposed San Juan Police Athletic League. Mr. Ponce.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members.
Good evening.
I'm here today to give a brief overview of a topic we've already discussed, and that's the Police Athletic League. I'm going to cover just some basics as far as where we're at in the process. We are currently, I think this thing is not on yet. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me get on track here. Threw me off a little bit. Okay. I've done research along with Chief Gonzalez as far as what are the requirements for us to establish a PAL chapter here in the city of San Juan. At the point that we're at now, it calls for the commission, if it chooses to do so, to call for a special workshop. And that workshop would allow for the creation of an application. We would essentially at that time create the guidelines for that application, set a timetable for the process, and for the process that's in place, that would be put in place, and also to discuss possible candidates that maybe want to be approached to serve as board members. In that application process, it's one as to initially start the program. You need to establish a board. So the special workshop would be to create the application. I have a sample application that I've attached that I've using other samples that I've seen from that other use, and just as a sample, if the commission chooses to do so, to a starting point. And you'll see that at the end of the presentation. In this special workshop, which was the first meeting, officers need to be elected. Now, I do want to say that traditionally, for the PAL chapters, the president is typically the chief of police or the sheriff, depending on who's applying. But in our case, it would be Chief Gonzalez who would serve as the president. And at that time, we could choose a minimum of 4 members, in addition to the chief, to develop the first initial board. At that time, you would establish making the motion to create the chapter. Once the board is established, then you will be able to start working on the bylaws, start really developing the structure and the organization of how you want the PAL to operate. Okay, and I've attached that to. As far as you should have a copy of my presentation. And then, of course, I go ahead and progress to with the second meeting. Essentially, what needs to happen is once the board is appointed and established, once bylaws are established, then the PAL needs to become a recognized nonprofit. But in order for that to happen, in order to apply for the national chapter and apply to become a PAL, you must be a nonprofit organization, a 501(c)(3). And this, again, is just going through the steps as far as some of the things that need to take place, the establishment of a bank account. Again, the bylaws. We do have a set of what we call sample bylaws that we've kind of gathered from other municipalities that you could use as a guide. Of course, the commission would have the opportunity to change those or as they deem appropriate. And again, just to, as far as the function of the board and the establishment of the board of directors, in most instances, PAL chapters elect a executive director or a director for the PAL. I'll give you an example. Like in FAR, they have an executive director that serves as the PAL. The board itself appoints and hires the director. So the board is very much regulatory as far as they appoint the executive director, who then again appoints the staff as well. Okay, so The types of individuals that are typically chosen for an organization like this are primarily businessmen and women. They're looking for people who can help generate funds by fundraising. There's a lot of seeking out of donations. And
Mr. Ponce, what percent is raised for it to function? What percent has to be raised to support the program?
Well,
Is it 100%?
yes.
Really?
Yes, and typically the way that most boards are established is that the city will usually fund the POW for the first few years until they're able to accumulate funds to where they can be self-sustaining. So initially, what usually happens is that in a Parks and Recreation department similar to ours, they split the parks and the recreation side. So the recreation side, which is our budget for recreation, is about $650,000. You know, that's the operating, that's the personnel included as well. So that's about the amount that you would be looking at that you'd have to raise annually. You know, well, that's just based off the recreation amount. It is self-sustaining. So there is need for private donations, for sponsorships, for fundraisers.
So there is absolutely no money in from asset forfeiture or anything, being that it is the Police Athletic League?
Yes, Commissioner, there is a possibility that asset forfeiture can be used for that because it's a direct link to the recreation side of it. So every year or every 2 years, we're allowed to establish some programs, and this is one of the programs that we have come up with also, to a community program to help our kids in the community. So it's allowed, and it's a percentage allowed as well. So
Okay.
you know, we're going to be using asset forfeiture funds to also fund some of this this nonprofit.
Okay.
And essentially, Chief Gonzalez mentioned, yeah, you can use asset forfeiture money, but of course they recommend that you try to be self-sustaining. Yeah, very similar to, I guess, the last presentation that was done, where our budget meeting was discussed, that we can't solely rely on asset forfeiture money. So there is a big emphasis on fundraising. So those are the types of individuals that usually are appointed to the board, those with ties to the business industry, those with ties to the community that can help raise those funds.
I'm sorry. So at the Police Athletic League is installed, they would be solely in charge of the recreation side, and what we call now our Parks and Rec would be in charge of the park side, maintaining the parks and things of that nature?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, essentially there would be a split, and the park side would be continue to fall under the scope of the city, and then the recreation would fall under the scope of the POW. Yes.
But would we be able to keep the programs that we have, Chief, and in all the programs that we have? And I know you had mentioned in the past that the officers would have to be involved. What does that mean as far as our staff?
What that means, Mary, is the fact that this PAL programs is the main focus is to make sure that we bridge the gap between the police department and the community, especially the young kids. And we are going to be encouraging, and that's another plus for the police department, that it allows our police officers to become coaches, to become mentors, to be involved with the community as well. And we're going to be able to keep some of the recreation side as to some of the sports and stuff like that. Everything that's happening there is still going to continue. But one of the main things here we got to focus on the fact is that for the first year or two, we're looking at a 3-year plan. For the first year or two, the city is going to have to invest in this PAL program as well the police department. But then until we get to the point as to fundraising, you know, of course, there's also federal grants for this, which is the great thing about it. There's federal grants for it that we can tap into also as well, and be able to start this athletic league. But it's going to come down to Mr. Ponce and his staff and the board, executive board, what type of recreational sports they're going to be under this particular program. Some cities also still continue with another recreation department, a parks department, and then they create the PAL program. So they start with a few sports with a PAL program, but they continue with a recreation department as well. So it can be done. It can be done. That's
the sports.
You split the recreation side and then the parks. But some counties and cities, what they do also is that they try not to put too much on the athletic league, so they select, let's say, 2 or 3 sports, and then continue with the recreation side as well, and then eventually
Start building.
start building and see how the feedback and, eventually they become self-sustained. So,
FAR has the PAL, right?
that is correct, yeah, and they became self-sustained, but also it started with the city investing in the program the initial year or so.
And now
then
it's a successful program,
it's about close to about $700,000 program, that's correct.
I know that not too long ago, they had some issues with the fundraising. How were they able to resolve that? Because I know that they had gotten some kind of, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
The difficulty in the fundraising, because it's going to have to be continual
Yes.
and not sustained by the city. So your plan is that in 3 years, this PAL program will be
It needs to stand on-
self-sustained,
It needs to stand on its own.
which means that the 600,000 that you're proposing would be invested in this program would be released by the end of the 3rd year.
Well, Mayor, the 600,000 is the current budget that we have.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that we foresee that the first year or so.
Right, no,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Your plan is that in the 3rd year, then the PAL must be self-sustained, and then we'll have 600,000 available to put back
that is
into
our goal.
our programs
Yeah.
or whatever we're
What-
doing in this department.
Yeah, what the city of FAR is doing also in some other cities is that all the city events are sponsored by the PAL program. So that's another way of fundraising as well. Any fees and stuff like that is being utilized for that as well. And other cities are doing as well as that. So there's the good thing about the PAL program is that there's so many ways of fundraising, and so many ways of accepting private donations and so forth, because it's going to be a 501c3 nonprofit. So anytime you're a nonprofit, it can also help out. Now, the other thing that I also was thinking, Mr. Ponce, is that, also part of the urban county funds that we get, that might be also another alternative that we might able, because we give out to the Boys and Girls Club, every year. So that might be something also that can be allocated to this particular athletic league. So that's also possible. So, but that's our preliminary. But I think during the workshop, like Mr. Ponce recommended, during the workshop,
We can ask more
we can have all those
details.
answers, Mayor, Commissioners. We can have all those questions, answered as to the options and different things that we're going to be doing. Because I think that one of the major concerns that anytime that we talk about establishing in this particular program, what's going to happen to our current employees. So in the workshop we're going to talk about what's going to happen to if it's going to have any impact at all on the employees, because it might not. Some self-sustained PAL programs have no impact on the current employees from the cities. They just, as a matter of fact, some of them have additional staffing to cover the PAL program. So, but all those can be answered during the workshop.
And
Tentative date on the workshop?
No, Mayor Pro Tem, that's something that we can work with the commission as to what dates you all would like to have it.
Okay.
And that essentially also, just to conclude, as far as how board members are chosen as far as through application, they are a very active board. They are a policy-making board. The board is essential in keeping the program afloat. And just to some of the things that I've gathered from other PALs is some of the things they require in an application is for the applicants to submit a resume, a letter of interest, 3 letters of recommendation. All PAL board members must go through a background check, and any types of certifications, transcripts, professional licenses that feel they may qualify them for the position. And then I've also added just a sample application, which this application would allow for attachments if they want to add, attachments with their references and the things that I just mentioned, essentially trying to ensure that we find the most suitable candidates.
I think one thing that's really important, having served on many different boards, is to know what is expected and have an active board. If you had a sense of how much money each board member would be required to raise, I think it's really important to let them know up front, because it does become, a full disclosure, because it definitely is something that, they have to be able to commit to and be able to do for that year, because if one board member can't pull it through, then you're looking at your dependency on their fundraising to really lack. And so I think it's real important that as we're looking at that, that you have some kind of sense of how much and just a disclosure. And I mean, you may not say you need to raise 100,000 or you need to sell 50,000 worth of whatever for the year, but be able to give at least a ballpark range so that they know what they're committing to. I think it's extremely important.
Okay, Mayor, I definitely have that prepared for when the
For discussion.
once the special workshop is called, and my presentation was just to really lead to where once the special workshop is called, what are the next steps?
Okay. I won't ask any more questions. No.
I have one, Mr.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mayor.
The last time this was brought up to us, you all were taking the lead. So now it's going through Parks and Rec?
No, it's a joint effort, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
It's a joint effort because Mr. Ponce also and one of my staff that was assigned to it is in a different division now. So that's why Mr. Ponce also, we're working together hand in hand to make sure that we are making sure that we get the stats and everything we need on the right page and try to get the bylaws and stuff like that. But we're going to be ready for the workshop, and Mr. Ponce's staff and our staff is going to be working together. As a matter of fact, tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, we do have a set meeting with our asset forfeiture contact, and this is some of the questions we're going to be asking about how much percentage we can allocate to this PAL program as well. So we have a meeting with them tomorrow morning as well.
Mr. Ponce, I know you mentioned about some of the staff being law enforcement. What if for some reason, there's a citizen out there that wants to be part of this PAL program and he's not, law enforcement? Would he be able to go out there and volunteer, coaching and stuff like that? Or
oh, yes, yes, of course, Commissioner. We'd still have the need for our community volunteers to also participate, but there will always be some type of law enforcement present at every PAL activity. You'll always have, whether it be officials, whether it be game coordinators or coaches, there will be a law enforcement presence, which could include obviously our San Juan PD, but state troopers, border patrol, sheriffs. The PAL is open to all that community as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
And Commissioner, also to follow up, it allows also for when our kids travel, also that our officers are there present for providing security for them to make sure that they're also part of the program, but also they're providing some sense of security for a peace of mind for the parents as well. So make sure everything's okay. So.
And the officers? I was going to ask another question. I'll ask it at the workshop. Anything else? So I guess we'll just work on getting a tentative date so that we can have the detailed discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ponce.
Thank you.
Presentation on departmental reports. Chief?
Yes, Mayor, Commission. I know that there is a report that we requested in the last meeting. Ms. Enriquez, you want to come up here? You had some questions in the municipal court, so I just want to make sure that you all have any questions on that report, Mayor.
Yes, and I also had questions for Mr. Gonzalez on the recycling department that we talked about, and you were also going to provide me information on the commercial accounts that we talked about.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor and
Can you lower that so we can capture
Yes.
your...
Good evening, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I note that they wanted, you had asked for the amount of the warrants that were pending.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I had run the report from 1999 through right now to present, which is July of 2015. We have pending warrants of 1,680,839 with 56 cents.
And for the year spans that you're talking about was from 99 till now.
Yes.
Do we have a sense of we're getting rid of the older ones first and leaving the more current pending? Do we know the aging of these outstanding?
There's some old, so I ran. I'm not sure if they're that old, but I ran it from that year.
Okay.
Because we do have some that are very old.
And as far as I know that we've discussed statute of limitations, all these don't have a statute of limitations, is that correct? We continue to be able to
Try to
collect some of
collect.
these?
Yes.
Okay, and how much has been reduced, do you know, since the warrant officer was brought on?
Because I had to run a report last year from also January the 1st
Okay.
through 1999. That was from up to December 2014.
Okay,
We were up to 1,680,839 with, okay, that was
That's right now.
That was last year. Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry. This was for the new year,
okay.
2015. It was 1,766,323 with 46 cents. So since we're adding the 2015, so it's a little bit.
So the 17 was what it was before this past year, correct?
The 17, sorry, it was for this year, for the from 99 through July 31st of this year. And then the 16 was for the 2014, sorry.
Oh, it's increased?
Yes, because
Wow. What we have are pending to collect, is that correct?
yes.
Wow. And it's increasing because we're issuing more, or I thought we would be reducing since we've got a warrant officer?
Because we're issuing more on the new ones, and that's plus the total that from the old ones. But we are reducing the ones from the old also. Yeah, he's focusing on the ones from the old warrants.
I guess that gives us an understanding how much money is out there. And, you know, I'm a little concerned that it's going up instead of down. I think we need to, I just believe we need to look at this very, very carefully.
Mayor, how long have we had the warrant officer?
For about, what, 2 years now?
Going on 2 years, Commissioner.
Yes, we
But there
had
was excuse me, there was a lapse in I believe a couple of months that we didn't have a warrant officer, yes.
Yes, we hired a new warrant officer in, I believe in February, because we had the one from last year. So this one, we have a new one that's working on the ones that were pending from the previous city marshal.
Any questions from Mr. Enriquez? Okay, thank you. I'd like to be able, maybe at the next, I think, are we having another budget meeting or no more? No more. Okay, I guess at some point I do want to, I'm not sure what the format's going to be. I really would like to take some time to look very carefully at the municipal court. I think there's a way, has to be a way we can tap into these monies. Whatever's being done, tried to be done, it doesn't seem to having the effect that I think was anticipated. And it might be the case, but we need to look at what has happened for the transitioning of extra personnel versus what seems to work, and then maybe we just need to do a study as what works in other areas that are able to collect, Chief.
Yeah, Mayor, one of the things that we're looking at with the new finance director, Mr. Pablo Garza, I've sat with him already, and I did discuss this particular item that we're discussing here. There's 3 ways of collecting the fines. That's through the warrant officer. That's one. The other one is a collection agency, and the other one is through online payments that Mr. Baca already set up for the individuals to pay. So we're going to break it down as to which is the most effective one, and then we're going to allocate some of our resources to that area. But so we're trying to find out, going back when we didn't have a warrant officer and now that we have a warrant officer, as to what is the difference, if there's any difference at all. So I think that's critical for us to go back and do an assessment and evaluate the whole municipal court as to what's happening. Maybe we haven't summoned enough people to come and pay their fines. So we're going to have a thorough audit on the municipal court as to exactly how we can improve that area.
I think also want to see the reports from the on the judges' scheduling as well, and how many cases are actually being processed and how fast they're being processed, because I think a lot of what happens could be that, you know, we may not be moving them fast enough, and then it gets too old and folks' addresses change and we lose track of who they are and where they are. So I like to look at, you know, how, well, when we set up this, I would like to be able to sit down in like in a workshop type or in a meeting where we can really take a look at this and what is the best approach, and do an analysis of what's happening.
Chief, on
and what we could do.
I'm sorry, Mayor, on these warrants that, you know, the fees that are out there, and somebody wants to come in and pay it, doesn't have it all. Can they give a partial? Can they give, because they're not going to go to your place because they're afraid of getting arrested.
Yeah.
But, you know, is there, or some kind of payment plan? I know tickets maybe you can get with you in a certain time. They can put you on a payment plan, so forth. You don't comply, you get a warrant for you, which money goes up. But yes, now you got to pay in full. I'm assuming that's the way you all are working. But I mean, again, I'm a collections enforcement officer for the county, which I have to collect, you know, again, on those court costs and fines and of that nature on criminal cases for Hidalgo County, misdemeanor and felony. So again, when we do that workshop, I guess I would like to throw in maybe some 2 cents on what I think might be able to work for the city of San Juan.
Good. Yeah, I think one of the things that, by speaking with Ms. Enriquez and the staff, is that the majority of the collections that we're doing is because of that right there, that we're trying to work with them as to, you know, have them come in, make a certain amount of payment. But I think that what's happening also is that once we agreed on that particular payment, they don't come back again. So there has to be sanctions as to, but we're going to get all that in the workshop. We're going to get all the answers, because sometimes we have to file KPSs and FTAs because they failed to come back and so forth. But then we got the citizens that actually come and just pay. The other thing we're also going to look at, and we already addressed it, is that changing the hours of operation for our staff. You know, many times people are work 8 to 5, and we have changed our staff to come in sometimes at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and sometimes stay late at night, up until about 7 o'clock, so depending. So I think that we're going to look at all those areas. We're going to look at all those areas and have a really good answer as to what we can, how we can improve.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, the information on the recycling, went back to we went as far back as 2011 on the revenues and how we've progressed through the years. In 2011, for the whole year, the recycle center revenues of $15,684.43, which is equivalent to $1,425.86 per month for the whole year. That was an average for 2011. For 2012, we had a total, they went down on 2012. The revenues were $11,660.90 with a monthly average of $1,060.08. That was for 2012. For 2013, it went up. We had a total of revenues of $24,263.43 with a monthly average of $2,021.95. In 2014, we stayed pretty much the same as 2013. The total for revenues for 2014 was $27,570 with 50 cents, with a monthly average of $2,297.54. And on 2015, as of July, because this month is not over yet, so as of July, we've brought in a revenue of $9,188.10 with an average of $1,312.59.
For the month, you're saying, or for the year?
No, for the year is $9,188.10 from January to July.
I see.
And that would be a monthly average of $1,312.59. And we have approximately, Mayor, a question on how many water accounts recycling accounts. We have 150. And
active accounts for recycling?
Pardon?
Accounts at home for recycling?
For recycling, right. And every container is an average of about $53 that we have. And
you said we no longer have a waiting list?
Pardon, Mayor?
No longer have a waiting list?
Yes, we do have a list. I think Eric said we have about 100 people that were in a waiting list. We have for this coming budget, we have 200 containers, so we're gonna get 100 for the sanitation department and 100 for the recycle. And that should keep us pretty much up to par as far as the demands on with the residents on the recycling center of it. And we do twice a week recycling pickups, and it runs us about, with one truck and one worker, it'll about $40, 40 gallons per truck biweekly. I mean, the two pickups that we do, and
What days? When did we go into 2 times? I know we were doing it once. When did we go into 2 times?
well, the reason that we go into 2 timers is because of our units that keep breaking down. So we do one area, and then because we're doing twice a week pickup, so we go back to finish up the route at the end of the week.
What days do you do that?
Pardon?
What days?
I believe they
Thursdays
do
and
it.
what?
They do it. I think they do it Wednesday and Friday. And that's pretty much it. On a yearly, well, that's the averages that we have. Mayor, I was working on this, but I didn't finish it. I'll try to get you more information.
On the what?
I'll get you more information as to what Eric and I were trying to do. We're still talking about it and present it to the board. If we charge, if it's approved, we charge $10 per container, it'll bring us a total of $1,500 a month, and for the 12 months, it'll bring in a revenue of about $18,000 if we do go that route. Because right now the services are for free.
Charging the people $10 a month?
Right. If we wanted to pick up more revenues, that would be a route to go. It's an option that we have that we can look at.
And then the commercial accounts, that's the last thing.
On the commercial account, Mayor, I apologize. We've been having a lot of issues with our trucks, and I've been trying to get them going on a daily basis. On the brush truck, that's one of the reasons that why we're behind in our brush, Mayor. We only have 2 grapplers and a tractor. The tractor has been down for a week, more than a week, and the brush truck's been down for about a week. So we only have 1 truck out there picking up brush. That's one of the reasons why we're a little behind on that.
Okay, I want you to go ahead and get me a schedule for the whole commission. Ms. Lomas showed, I remember I've been asking about a schedule. She showed a schedule that we had, and it really was a very good schedule, a functioning schedule. It pretty much, it varied little. I like to be able to see the schedule so that, develop that schedule, that we can be able to put it out there for the people. So, and I think the point made by some of the residents, tell us when you're going to be in our area so we don't take out the brush as soon as it's been picked up, and then you get to see the brush out there for a long time. I think that's very important, and I think we have a commission that's spoken in the past about using our mail out as a way to communicate with our residents, because I know we can still do, we are able to do it in all the accounts, and maybe North Alamo can also help us in those mail-outs. I'm not sure how they receive their mail-outs from North Alamo.
That's one thing that I'm going to get together with Lori on that, Mayor, and that's part of the game plan, Mayor, that's coming up that I introduced to you all on the 4 quadrants. That way there we'll have brush, we'll have garbage, we'll have patching, we'll have everything in every area, Mayor. It needs a lot easier to get a complaint and say, well, we'll be there in 4 days or 3 days, than to say we'll be there in 2 months or 3 months.
Right, and I think I want us to go back and take a look why it has not, if we were still following that particular listing, because I don't remember it being changed. What has happened over, because people talk about, and I think all of us heard it, 5 months, 6 months?
That's not true, Mayor. I mean,
Well,
you know,
I wouldn't dismiss
like
the
this,
residents, Mr. Gonzalez. I think
and-
that maybe we can discuss that
Sure,
through the
sure,
plan.
sure.
Because if they're saying that they've seen some of this hanging out there for a while, I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen. So, but I'd like to be able to have that discussion in a more, I'm not sure if, when we're gonna have that discussion or how, but I think it's something that we all have been talking about for a long time. And so it does need to be resolved, and it does need to be systematic. And I think that we need to go out and do a scan, because we can't age the grass, but if the folks are telling you, you know, some of this, and you can tell by the way that it looks, but if talking to our residents, you know, I think we can get to an idea of why some seem to be out there longer than others. And I think, it does come back for us to having a systematic way. So, and I think we need to go back and take a look at why did we have a breakdown on that? And so, I'd like to be able to have that brought before us, because I think it is of a great concern, and I think we heard a lot of it. Then that's just a few of the folks that decided to come out today.
Sure. And it's like the last lady said, Mayor, we do pass by there, we do clean, and the same day they throw again. And I'm not saying that it happens all the time, but it happens a lot throughout the city, Mayor. That's something we cannot control.
I think that it's just important, and maybe we can start doing something, Mayor and Commission and you know, City Manager, that just in the way that they know when they're supposed to take the trash out, or when it's going to get picked up, or when it's supposed to get picked up, there should also be restraints as to when you can put it out. You know, and again, like the mayor was saying, if we can communicate through some type of mail or something. I remember back in the day, we used to get a flyer, a city little newspaper in the mail, you know, to just increase the communication between us and them. It'd be awesome to know that, okay, I'm going to throw out my brush this day, and it's coming this day. But I can't throw it out before, because it's not going to get picked up before. So, you know, I think that the commission and everybody and the citizens, we work together, we can get it cleaned up. I know we can.
Sure.
Commissioner, I think that's something that we're going to address in the public hearing, the line item that we have, and specifically those some of the issues that we've addressed already, and I think that that's been happening a lot, but again, also our residents are also right in the fact that there's some areas that haven't been picked up at all. And I think those are the issues that I've talked to Director Mike already, Mr. Gonzalez, and we're looking at that. But also on the delay of the schedule, also on the schedule that being posted, once we have a vehicle or two down, then we don't meet those schedules anymore. And I checked with Baca already that we need to update those schedules on a daily basis, because as residents, people do see those schedules and they expect the Thursday says pickup, then they expect to see a vehicle there on Thursday. And so we need to do a better job on that, Mike and Mr. Baca, notifying the residents as to when the pickups, if we're not going to pick up on a day and so forth, but we need to go back. And I think those are some of the things that with the planning director as well that we discussed as to separating the debris from the brush as well. And we did hear the residents mention the fact that there's been areas that you know, become hazards already. Anytime you have a hazard like that, 3 or 4 months, 5 months, then you start seeing rodents, you start seeing all these different things and snakes and so forth. I mean, that happens. And that happens a lot. And I think that we're going to work well with the fire chief as well to make sure that we take care of that bad infested area out there that we see as they complain as well. So,
I think also, Mr. Gonzalez and Chief, once we iron out this issue, I think we really need to, once the brush gets picked up, going back, how you mentioned how some people go out and throw it out there again, I think we really need to look at them and see, you know, maybe we need to cite them, you know, once we get that plan, you know, in effect. Because, I mean, I've seen it happen before where the brush gets picked up, a week later, there's another new pile, you know. So once we have a plan of attack and we see that people are going out there and throwing brush again, I really think that maybe the code enforcers come in and cite those individuals, you know, and more likely, I'm pretty sure they'll learn, you know, to just throw their brush out there when it's time to.
And this is why I want to go to the 4 quadrants, Commissioner, because you can have a better view as to what's going on, what areas are more troubled or have more demands, and it'll be a lot easier for us to get around. And the reason I haven't recommended this to chief yet is because I need to make sure that our fleet is ready to go, and right now it's just not there. But we're working on it. Our mechanics are doing an excellent job. You know, it's just that they're worn down, and we're going to improvise with what we have. and we're gonna get it going. You know, it takes a little time because of all this, but that the game plan is set. It's just a matter of having our equipment properly and ready to go, and we'll attack it. And we will clean up the city because it's very easy to keep a close eye than just, you know, well, this area is trouble, this area is trouble. That's the reason why our citizens are complaining, because if I see there's a lot of, I go look at it personally. If I see a lot of in one area, well, I send them there. Right now, we only have one brush truck working out there. So I try to move it around where our trouble areas are. You know, and it's hard to keep up with the demand because, you know, even over at our landfill, you know, we're giving a 3-to-1 ratio. You know, brush coming in and instead brush going out. Also there, one of our rollers was down. We finally got it going, so we're starting to pick up. You go to the landfill, you can see it's starting to clean up already. So it's a slow process, but we are going to get it going. As a matter of fact, we even got some quotes on the chippers. But the chippers, the quotes that we got, they're smaller than what we have. So I was trying to work on trying to put it on one of our brush trucks and attack the alleys and start doing that. But what we're going to do now, we're just going to have to sit it there at the landfill and try to do as much as we can on the clean brush that we have there. We have areas where there's just brush. So the thing is that it's the opening for the chipper is only like 17 inches wide. And you really can't put the pilot in there. It has to be done manually, and it's a slow process. And like I said, I mean, in a 17-inch hole, I mean, a gap, you can only go maybe 11, 10 inches to where it'll slide properly. You try to overfeed it, you're going to burn the motor or force the motor, and then we're going to have issues again. So it's going to be a slow process, but I think it's going to be done. I mean, you know, it's just take a little time, and I know our residents are run out of patience, and understandably so. But the game plan is there, and we're gonna implement it very soon. Like I said, as soon as we get all our fleet going the way it's supposed to be, we're gonna start it, and you're gonna see the difference. Any more questions on the?
Let me just ask a question. Have you ever seen that list, Mr. Gonzalez, that we had before? Ms. Lomas, is she still here?
She's here.
Can I just ask you, because I know we for some reason have not had that for a while. Can you tell me how many times, can you check that, how many times the pickups were? 6 times a year? 2 months. It was every 2 months.
They would pick up 6 times every 2 months?
Yes. Yeah, every 2 months. We wouldn't pick 6 times. They would have out of the year, brush would be picked up 6 times.
Okay, so in every 2 months, they would pick up the brush.
Yes.
And it does say, reminder, do not trim or cut any tree and shrubs until your next scheduled pickup date. Loose leaves must be inside plastic garbage bags. And then, other debris. Do not mix brush or any other debris with any other debris.
What was the date on that?
And this was dated 2010, 2011.
We're not using that anymore?
Well, that was the question.
It even tells you about tires. Only 4 tires are allowed per household. Building construction and demolition material debris will not be accepted or picked up.
There you go.
It's been done.
It's a mix. Don't pick it up.
It's been done.
And it was working very well.
It was. I remember. So I think that if
you want to make a copy?
Definitely. Can you trust me to take it with me, and you can pick it up tomorrow? Appreciate that. I think that gives us a guide, because if we are able to find out what we're doing then, and things happen, I understand that, but we need, in order to be able to address our citizens, we need to figure out what the breakdown was. And I think the other thing that we heard, and we might, I'd like for you to take a look at, is how do we log in the people that call, the phone calls? We used to have a log, and we would actually, it was part of a report that would tell us, we had this many calls, and it was regarding these issues, and then it would actually state when it was resolved. And it was really your department that seems to get, because it's the streets and the garbage, they're going to get the most phone calls. Because, if our folks are telling us, I've been calling, and it's now February, and I've reported, and we haven't had it resolved, I think we need to look at that as well. So I'd like for you, Chief, if we can look at where that program is that we definitely implemented and had. It was very effective. so that we also hold all ourselves accountable as to
Sure.
when we're responding. So I think that's, I'd like to know what happened with that program, and like to know how do we do that, so that we do have it. And the best thing was that we could log and we say, you did call, and on such a date, we called back, right? And I think that that helps, so that, you know, we're measuring our response time, not just from the complaint, but also to be able to go and respond as to, you know, resolve the issue.
That's something that's very workable, Mary. It's a daily report that we'll start working on that. We do have a lot for our garbage trucks, because we do pass by, and anytime there's either the container is very close to the mailbox, or there's something obstructing the container, or a vehicle, you know, on the way, we do have a lot for that, because the resident is calling, well, they didn't pick up my container, and the reason is we have the answer there for them. And even so, you know, we still have issues sometimes, but it's common, and we do have a log, but we will start implementing as early as tomorrow. We'll start implementing the daily log, and something very simple that we can work with very.
And hopefully you still have it where it's just done through computer, and it generates
Sure.
a report.
Sure.
Right.
Mayor, just the commission, just to also address final thought on this issue here is the fact that there's some areas that I've driven around the city as well, and there's some areas that have done a lot of illegal dumping. And some of these areas that some houses have, the abandoned houses, nobody lives there, but if you can see the front of the yard, there's a lot of brush there. So, you know, if nobody's living in that house, somebody from the residential area, from that area, is throwing all the brush in that area. So those are some of the things that we're addressing as well. So it just, people see some brush there and they just start piling it. And so we're going to address that as well with the property owners as to making sure that, you know, that doesn't happen. So.
And that is one of the major problems that we have here on vacant lots that are out there. People go to the landfill, we don't accept it because they're either contractors working for money, making money out of the citizens of San Juan, and they don't want to pay to dump the trash. They just go to empty lots and dump them up there. It's been unfortunate that we haven't caught anybody yet, but we've been noticing that, you know, for a while. And like I said, it's something you know, it's hard to control because we're not out there, you know, throughout the city. But it's something that when we do go to that plan of action that we have, it's going to be our leaders to control.
The city of Alamo, there was a report in TV, and it was a little over $100 per camera. They put a camera in the troubled areas where they had a lot of illegal dumping in the past. They put up the camera, they put up a sign, and they were able to, if they're able to, in such a way that they're able to capture, notify them, you keep doing this, we've got you recorded, and they were able to trace some vehicles because of the license plates for $100 a camera. And they installed, I don't know how many, but they installed them, and one of the things that they saw was that there was definitely a decline in illegal dumping in those areas. So it'd be really worth our making contact with Alamo about, you know, their, where they get this equipment, for us to consider it in those areas that we feel are, you know, very prominent, that you get calls about the illegal dumping. So they had a plan, and I'd love to be able to consider how that would work.
I'll go look into that, Mayor. Also, like right now, for example, on Shawnee, I think it is, we're having problems there. The vacant lots there, they keep dumping and dumping and dumping, and the residents keep calling, and, you know, we pick it up. You know, it's a very nice subdivision, but, you know, we just can't keep up with it, you know, and who is it, we don't know. But that's, we'll look into that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other question, Mr. Gonzalez?
A comment, ma'am.
Go ahead.
This schedule that was provided by Ms. Lomas, I know I had seen it prior to this meeting because Ms. Mary Reyes had presented it to us. When I first came on board, this situation was already here. And I remember contacting Mr. Cervantes, and the issue was there's no penalty assessed for these residents that after we go by and pick up, they bring things back out. So unless there's a penalty assessed, we're going to have the problem. There has to be some consequence to bringing all this brush or trash out right after these gentlemen go out there and pick up. So if this ordinance does not address a penalty, it's for nothing, in my opinion. We have to make sure that there's a penalty assessed.
I agree, and the same thing could go for weedy lots.
Yes.
You know, assess a penalty. I mean, because that will get people going pretty quick, you know?
I know that we have cited people for, and it must be in an ordinance, but people have been cited for putting their brush too early. So it exists. It might be the enforcement, and I know that because I had a phone call about it,
right.
or two. So it's already, it should be in the books because we were citing people. So check into that. I think that's very important. We're not duplicating. If we are, then it's a matter of revisiting that. And as far as I think with the lots, I think we already assessed. The problem is that a lot of the weedy lot people are not from around here, and so we end up putting liens and not able to collect. So, but yeah, I mean, I think revisit what we do have and why hasn't it been effective. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
You're welcome.
Under public hearings, A, hold first public hearing and adopting the proposed tax rate and levy for the city of San Juan, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October the 1st, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016. Mr. Garza.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission.
Good evening.
This is in reference to the proposal we did on August 17 to keep the same tax as last year, which is 0.6993. Our goal is to bring revenues of 5.7 million. This is just for the year 2015-16, and in order for us to continue the operations and cover the A&S expenses.
I'd like to open this public hearing at 7:32. Any member of the audience that wishes to make any comments about the proposed rates? Any members of the audience that wish to make a comment at this time? Anything from the commission? If not, I'll go ahead and close the public comments at 7:32. And Mr. Garza, how do we proceed then? We just have a public hearing, we don't have a vote at this point.
Excuse me?
There's no voting, it's just letting the people speak, is that correct?
Okay, yes, sir.
That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then let me go on to the next one. And this is hold a public hearing and consider ordinance adopting the budget for the city of San Juan, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2015 and ending September 30th, 2016. Mr. Garza?
Yes, Mayor. Some of the budget highlights is, as I was talking about, the tax. It's going to remain the same as last year. We're going to have some increases on sick leave, on the accruals. We're going to change it from 4 hours to 8 hours per month on the employees. There's going to be an increase in funding on the community development for one lighting for the existing city subdivisions with no street lights, which is a $10,000 project. We're going to have an increase in funding on the finance department for an asset depreciation module for $3,000. The municipal swimming pool project will be rescheduled for future opening. We're going to have an increase on human resources for one file cabin of 2,000 and a one part-time and administrative clerk position of 6,725. That position, it's going to be paid 50% from the human resource department and 50% for the purchasing department. And this is something new, right? We were able to include this new position due to the fact that we removed the ROCUS access point, which is the internet access that the information technology department was going to install on the parks, right, which is $15,000. There's an increase in information technology for a switch of $2,300, a server of $8,400, web filters of $3,000, and this Synology storage of $1,500. An ID card printer of $2,500 and 5 tablets for $3,000. Another increase on information technology for the Windows VMware Office of $20,000 and the Encode upgrade of $28,500, which is our accounting software. There was a creation of an emergency management account for other professional services of $19,000, travel and training for $2,000, and an increase on food and ice on bottled water of $1,000. an increase on the assets for feature and machinery and equipment of 25,000 and other equipment of 80,000. An increase on miscellaneous grants on machinery and equipment of 71,558 and other equipment of 3,857. An increase on solid waste on other structures of 20,000 and machinery and equipment of 15,100. And this is also a new one. We included a 2016 front loader of 283,000 for the commercial accounts. There's an increase on utility on a software, 31,500, machinery and equipment, other equipment of 6,450, some vehicles of 58,000, and machinery and equipment for 62,775, which is going to be distributed among the different departments. And another increase on an asset forfeiture on the new substation building of $1 million.
That's it?
Any questions? Mm-hmm.
Are there anything else pending?
Yes, actually, I'm still waiting, or we're still planning to include a promotion for the Parks and Recs. We're planning to move the, what is it?
A temporary position to a full-time for the Parks and Recreation Department, and we're also waiting for some documentation on the IT director's proposed also increase in pay. And also, we're getting some information on that, and that's about it. I don't think anything else that.
And also the $4,000 reclassification, an adjustment on the salary for the fire department. And I didn't include that last week because I was still waiting on the job description from the chief.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Commission, also, there was some discussion in the last meeting that we had also to discuss as to cost of living as well. And I had that tasked Mr. Garza to give us an estimate on. He's gonna share it with you all. But also, one of the things that if we cannot do a cost of living, something that we can do a bonus for our employees. And I think that he has some numbers that I had to ask because of the cost savings that we did this year, only for this year, something that he can share with the commission, mayor, as to exactly what we can and do. The good thing news, this afternoon we met, or this morning, myself and Mr. Cervantes, we met with Urban County. And the proposed project for the street project that we're talking about, and we discussed the last time on the Capri subdivisions, Hooper, Putland, and all the streets, that is a low mod area, so it qualifies for the 2016 Urban County funding there. So,
Thank you,
so that's something that with the work of Mr. Cervantes, and I applaud him because he's the one that set up the meeting, and we met with Mr. Barco, this morning and his staff. So that's going to be something that we're going to address it. So, if the city chooses not to fund that particular street improvement project with the cost savings of this year.
And do other streets.
Yes, exactly. Or, I mean, yes, Mayor, we can do other streets, but also the proposed of the bonuses for the city employees. You want to discuss the numbers on that? Yeah.
Talking about the cost of living, we were thinking in a 10% increase as cost of living, and we're talking about 144,000.
At what percent?
2%.
Did you do the 1, the 2, and the 3 breakdown? Please.
Well, Mr. Garza is doing that. The numbers that we have asked, Mayor, or that I tasked him to present, just a general numbers, not the amount about the bonuses, but we were talking about a $300 or $500 bonus for our employees. So.
Now this is for like during the Christmas time, or how we did that last
If the commission chooses, yes, Commissioner, if the commission chooses to do that.
Okay. I have the list of the employees. I mean, and I have the salaries for every single one of them. I don't have to add every single one of them in order to give you the amount. But I can come back with the numbers.
Tell me what you got for 2%.
2%, it's 144,605.
Is it a safe thing to say if you divide that by half? Not really,
No.
no. Reverse math? We get one more stab at this, Mr. Garza?
Excuse me?
To approve it, we get one more look at it?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna commit to something that we don't have exact numbers.
Okay.
But I think it's important, as we look at it, and I think we're gonna, be talking about the bond issuance, and we're gonna see the effect that that has anyway. I'd like to have that discussion with Mr. Vela as well, and then give you an opportunity to kind of do the breakdown on them. The effects of a bonus of, what it would be. It'd be a one-time, the effect on the unrestricted fund, and then the impact over time. And we typically look between 1, 2, and 3. I say, so when we make that decision, whatever it needs to be, we have those numbers before us, we understand the impact, and we can make a well-informed decision. I think being able to do something for the employees, I think is something we all want to do, but we want to look at it realistically. And I think that, you're definitely would provide us that information so we have an informed decision, and like to be able to do that before we do an approval of the final budget, so that we know how to include it in here, and that and on top of that, we're doing a balanced budget, of course.
Mayor, and that's that was the plan. We come before you all to give you some proposed incentives, and then for the Mayor and Commission to decide as to the final budget meeting as to what we can do for the employees. We have met with Mr. Vela, and this is part of the discussion that we discussed with him. This is some unallocated, encumbered, cost savings that we can utilize for these particular incentives. Can you just share with the Commission the cost of the 300 and the 500 bonuses?
We decided to give the incentive to the employees $500. It's going to cost us $808,000. $400.
800,000?
108,000.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay.
I heard 808.
If we decided to give them, if we decided to give them 400, we're talking about $86,000, and 300, it's 65,100.
Okay, you said 400, how much, sir?
$400.
Uh-huh.
That's represent 86,000 in total.
Okay.
And $300, that's 65,100.
And you're talking, that amount that you're quoting is everything, or what gets taxed against the general fund?
It's everything.
Overall, but then it gets divided, what impacts the general and then the enterprise funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So on the cost of living, it's just something that we're gonna have, if we go that route, just maintain it every.
And that's the challenge right there,
Yeah.
Commissioner, that the cost of living is something that we have to carry over every single year. And that's going to be tough, because the numbers that we provided you all is cost savings that we did on this year, specifically because of the fund of the swimming pool, and also because some of the positions that we hadn't filled out. And that's the two major components that trigger these cost savings that we're talking about.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, are there any more questions?
This is,
I opened the public hearing, right?
yes.
Okay, then I'd like to go ahead and close it. Did I close it? We're talking right now, so I had not closed it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll go ahead and close this public hearing at 7:44.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Thank
Item C, consider ordinance in the first reading for the rezone request of the General Business District C-2 to Light Industrial District L1 of the north .98 acres of the east 119.33 feet of the west 196.5 feet of Lot 14, Block 35, Alamo Land and Sugar Company subdivision, lots 48 through 99, Tierra Blanca Estate subdivision, all located approximately a quarter of a mile west of Cesar Chavez along the south side of U.S. Business 83, as requested by Ruben Lopez Jr. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, at the City Commission meeting of August 11, 2015, the City Commission tabled the adoption of the ordinance in first reading since there was not a full board present. Previously, staff provided the following background. Mr. Lopez is proposing to rezone the properties from General Business District to Light Industrial District in order to sell the property for a proposed manufacturing plant for sheet metal products. The properties to the west are already subdivided, and the .98 acres to the east is not. The east portion will have to be subdivided in order to build on it. Staff mailed notices to surrounding property owners within 200 feet and received one letter in support and one letter in opposition, and we also received emails recently in opposition. Staff recommends denial of the rezoning request since there are single-family homes just south of the subject property. Light industrial zoning is not ideal next to single-family residential zoning and near the downtown. During their August 6th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the rezoning request with a 3-to-1 vote. As for the zoning ordinance, a minimum of 4 votes of the City Commission is required for the rezoning to be approved.
And I know you all had a full discussion the last time, and I'm the one that was not privy to be here.
Do we have a picture again of the building that?
My question is, if we're doing industrial, and I know that that's something we've looked at over time, you know, we're setting a precedence of allowing industrial in a non-industrial area, and by approving one, it's not spot zoning because we're actually changing the zoning itself, correct? Because it's not an established. We're actually trying to change the.
Spot zoning, the definition of spot zoning is when you treat one property differently from all the other properties around it.
This one you're trying to change the actual.
Well, so it depends on how you look at it. In my opinion, it is spot zoning. But if you look at the history of Pinus 83, you may say it's not spot zoning because there used to be industry along that corridor. Mayor. So it all depends.
I need to remove off the table, correct? Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chief, for reminding me. Before we can move on, of course, we have to remove it from table. Is there a motion to remove?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Like I was saying, spot zoning is a very subjective matter. It's based on opinion. I can have the opinion that it is spot zoning, but you may disagree. So you all make the final decision on that. But if you decide that it's not spot zoning, you will have valid arguments for saying that it's not spot zoning. But the question is, does the zoning fit the area? You know, there are houses just south of this property that could be negatively impacted. And on zoning, you cannot put conditions on zoning. So,
really?
No. So on zoning, you approve it or you disapprove it. Now something that you could do is not approve the whole thing, maybe only a part of the property, not the entire. So that's a compromise that could be reached with the applicant, where you only approve the north 200 feet instead of the entire property. But if approved, the plant could go up and those machines could be running all day, all night, and there's no way for us to stop that because they got the zoning for industrial.
So when they say that the hours of operation is from 8 to 5 or 12 to 1, they can go in there at 3 in the morning and
because
run these machines if they want?
It's not a conditional use permit where we're giving them a permit based on conditions. This is zoning. So if we give them a zoning for light industrial, they have a right to use the property for industrial purposes. And we could not put limitations on hours. So that machine could be running all day, all night, all weekend, if they want to, if they get the zoning.
If I may, Mr. Cervantes, has anyone perhaps taken the initiative to, and for the record, for those of you who weren't here, they have another location in Edinburgh, right?
It's north of Dana.
Okay. Has anyone taken the initiative to visit the other property to see indeed if it is noisy?
Yes, I visited the property.
Because I know that the citizens who have, some concerns from what I've heard, are basically 100% based on noise levels and things of that nature. And so I want to know if anyone's taken a look to see if indeed it is a racket or not.
What were your findings, sir?
The machine is, in my opinion, is noisy. I don't know how, I was standing in front of it. I don't know how far away the noise will carry, but I thought the machine was noisy.
Was it in an area? Sorry, go ahead
No,
and finish.
it's okay.
No, go ahead and finish.
Is it a open building or is it maintained closed?
It's like a warehouse, and they have, at the existing site, they have like openings for the air to go through, and I suppose that's what's proposed. I don't think this building will be air conditioned, so they will have openings for the air to go through, so the noise will, some of the noise will escape the building.
Again, Mayor and Commissioner, again, also we had somebody else, another neighbor, about the scrap and so forth. Now, he says, I think I wrote it down, he also said, well, if it looks like that, then I won't have a problem with it. But is it gonna look like that? Is there gonna be scrap metal? Is there gonna, so, I mean, again, we have the, both sides,
I would find it, go ahead.
I mean, I would love, it looks something like that. I mean, I'm about the beautification also of the city. Something that looks, nice, generating, business, new jobs, so forth. But at the same time, to address the concerns of the neighbors as well. So to make sure that it stays clean, it looks decent like that, and the noise level, I mean, so again, I would like to keep both people happy, How do we do that?
I think the decisions that we make, we're never going to please everyone.
Yeah.
I think what we have to look at it is in long term. And the long term that I see in approving this area to become industrial is that you will not have anything to hold on to stop another company who would be industrial. And they might not be looking like that. It might be industrial of a different type. And we would have a very difficult time if you zone that and the next one is empty to be able to say no, or let's say that they're out of business, and not to say that they would be, in 2 years. It's already zoned industrial. We can't control what comes back into that at that point, and say, well, now they're producing something that may be TCQ in compliance, but does now create another environmental issue, be it through what's released or the kind of traffic to pick up. If it's heavy trailer traffic that's coming up, now you've got a new aspect coming into the area. And if we look at our city and we look at the amount of space that we have for retail development or even commercial development, whatever we have, the main zones are in, we have corridors, and one, of course, is the Expressway, but Business 83 is another one, and Nolana on the north side, and our space is limited. And I think because, and that's what we look later in here in strategic planning, all of it comes to our long-term vision of what we want that corridor to look like. And I think that we do need areas where we can have light industrial, and we need to work on that so that we can have these kind of businesses coming to San Juan, because the effect of bringing jobs is very important. Yeah. But I think if we look at long-term, what we might be developing, we might be setting up precedents for something we might not be able to sustain an objection to in the future. Not having heard what it sounds like, I think the noise is one aspect. You talk about the scrap is another aspect, and I talk about the future impact that it would have by developing an industrial on a very busy retail commercial type of a corridor that we have that's only 2 miles long. And so I'm inclined to definitely follow the recommendation of staff and the planning and zoning.
Wasn't there another area up there on the north side as far as where Delia's?
Yes, on Owaza, the south side of Owaza, the city commission approved some light industrial zoning for the future Delia's factory. So that's a little industrial park that we have started by allowing that zoning. When I went to Dana to visit the existing site, I did take a rep from the EDC for them to meet the owner and the EDC, so that if this is not approved, that we can try to maybe accommodate them somewhere on Owaza or on South Veterans, Whole Acres, where we have like industrial areas.
And I think if you want to also share with them, we did have a proposal come before us from Commissioner Cantu about upgrading, not upgrading, but doing an overlay on Owasso Road So even the condition is going to be improved in the very near future. That might make that, something that we could continue working on. And also to say that that's something they can look at for in and out. And through Owasso, you get a straighter shot into Expressway 83. Or it's no longer, it's corridor, Interstate 69. So that might pose a good proposal for them.
Yeah, I hate to lose a business. I just want the business to be located in the right location.
I agree. Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So there are no ways for our city to implement zoning with our own certain rules and clauses and demands and things of that nature. Like if we were to deem this light industrial, but our city says that you have to have this, none of this, some of this, you know what I'm saying? To create stipulations.
In the zoning ordinance, if you review it, each district tells you what you can do in that district. But like hours of operation, that's not something that you normally put in zoning ordinance. It's just the type of use. Yeah.
Cut and dry.
So if, in a light industrial district, you want those factories to be running, right? If Delias, I have confidence that Delias is going to build a factory on Owasso. We want that factory to be running all day and all night, right? So that's why we gave him that zoning.
Any other questions? If not, I'll go ahead and ask, is there a motion to deny as proposed by the Planning and Zoning and staff?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
It is denied. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. On the next one, consider an ordinance in first reading amending the Code of Ordinances, Section 6.03, stagnant water, weeds, rubbish, and other unsanitary conditions by placing regulations on residential property owners to maintain city right-of-ways within the front and side yard, and placing regulations on property owners to maintain a portion of the public alleys, and adding a section regulating bees and wasps in private property, and amending Section 13.02.005, receptacles, placement of waste for collection of placing regulation towards the proper placement of brush in residential areas. Mr. Cervantes.
On this one's based on the discussion that we had earlier, since we don't have any provisions for fines, I recommend that we table this so I can visit with the attorney and look into adding fines.
Okay. Is there a motion to table?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We'll table it for the next meeting. Item 4, appointments. A, consider Library Advisory Board, 1 member. Ms. Ramirez. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
Mayor and Commissioners, good evening. The Memorial Advisory Board consists of 7 members having two-year terms. On meeting of January 27, the City Commission nominated Lauren Hernandez. As you see in the attendance sheet, she has not attended a meeting, and therefore on the bylaws it states where 3 consecutive times it's an automatic dropout, having her membership expire. Due to automatically being dropped, we're needing to appoint 1 member to replace Ms. Hernandez.
I just have some questions on the way that we annotate some of on their attendances. There is an A and Q for some, but not an A and Q for other, and I read that as being absent because of no quorum, but some of the others have present. No, but on the same line, on the same date? I got you. So maybe
There's
just
only 3 that attended.
They showed up, but
the
there was
rest
no
of the
quorum.
folks
No
did.
quorum.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you. And everybody seems to be coming, correct? And we're replacing the person that did not.
We're replacing Lauren Hernandez.
I got you. Okay, there's in the packet several people that have applied. And I'll go ahead and open up the floor for nominations.
Nominate Mary Reyes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? If not, I'll go ahead and close nominations. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And I'm going to ask, well, I guess I'll wait. I've been wanting to go to the ladies' room, but I will wait. Because it's the last thing. I don't think you needed to hear that. No, actually, it's not the last thing, but can you please take over?
Recess?
No, I don't know if any of y'all need to go. I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem take over.
Next item, contractual final plats and resolutions. Consider and approve a series 2015 plan of finance. Mr. Chief Gonzalez?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, this is a presentation from Mr. Chris Vela, and this is a proposed street improvement project that we've been talking about in the plan of the financial plan that's going to be utilized in the next couple of years. Mr. Vela? Also, Mayor Pro Tem, I have the Finance Director, just in case there's any questions on the city financial side. He's going to be available for questions as well.
Do we wait for the mayor? We're good?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, sir.
You can go ahead.
Members of the City Commission, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Vela with First Southwest Company, financial advisors to the City of San Juan. We have been asked to analyze the impacts of a proposed capital improvement program for improvements to certain streets and drainage improvements within the community. There is a presentation that we prepared. I don't know if you have it available for the public, Chief.
Hi, Mr. Vela.
Sandra, we don't have it up there. Okay. Very well. You all have a copy of the presentation? Okay. We'll start with the table of contents. We have an executive summary, a municipal market update, the actual plan of finance, and obviously the next steps. The executive summary. Financing of a portion of the city's 215-216 Street Capital Improvements Program in the amount totaling $4,219,213 to be repaid from revenues generated by the existing debt service tax rate. No tax rate increase, and I want to make that very clear. Financing of a garbage truck to be repaid from annual transfers from the sanitation fund, incorporating refinancings, as I spoke before, of utilizing existing debt to be refunded that was on a current basis. It made sense to give you some sort of relief that would probably will not make sense to do on their own, but lumping them together with another financing does provide some benefit to the city. And the issuance of combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation for the funding of the streets CIP and the garbage truck. And then issuance of general obligation refunding bonds, as I spoke, to portion of the currently outstanding Series 04, 05, and 06 certificates, all currently callable.
Okay.
If you move on to page 4, under on the municipal market update, if you'll focus on the little box there on the left-hand corner, you'll see that the 20-year minimum was in December 6th of 2012, for a 3.27, and you can look at on our corner as to where we're at. It's a 373. So if you look at the footnotes that I have, or the bullet points on the bottom, the tax-exempt municipal rates remain under the 20-year historical averages, the average being 476. Macroeconomic conditions, strong U.S. dollar, low inflation, among other factors, have contributed to the low interest rate environment. Current GO bond buyer index as of 8/20 is less than 50 basis points, or 0.5% above the 20-year low, which is the 327. So we're in a very favorable interest environment, and quite frankly, all of the things that have been going on globally,
like yesterday,
have really helped this market. And sometimes I wish that we could understand all of these factors and how they impact, but seriously, sometimes it just works that way, and this is one of those cases. If we move on to page 6, it's a restatement of what the program is. If you look at the project starting on the left, we talk about Cesar Chavez Road, including right-of-way, U.S. Business from Business US 83 to Nolana, 2 lanes to 5 lanes with storm drainage, sidewalks, and utility readjustments, and an estimated cost of $1 million. And I'm assuming that $1 million is the local city share. It does not include the total project cost.
That is correct.
Yes. And of course, the life expectancy as provided by city staff is 30 years with proper maintenance. San Antonio Avenue, including right-of-way from Ridge to Cemetery Roads, 42 back-to-back new road with storm drainage and sidewalks except more to Cemetery, $919,049, again 30 years with proper maintenance. Las Flores Ridge Road and Las Flores subdivision, drainage improvements, $954,430, 30 years with proper maintenance. Now, drainage improvements, I would imagine, require, Mr. Cruz, less maintenance than the streets? The drainage improvements on Las Brechas subdivision? Yeah. And then, of course, we have the garbage truck for $283,000 that has a life expectancy of 10 years. The street sweeper and the road patcher in red, we could not qualify for this program. So the total is $4,942,000 of all of the projects, amount to be financed with the certificates, $4,502,213, and the remaining balance is the $440,000. It would be for another cycle, if you will. On page 7, it's a delineation of the sources and uses. The streets is going to take $4,340,000, and of course the sanitation is going to take, the sanitation truck is going to take $290,000 for a total size of $4,630,000.
And that portion will be funded by the sanitation fund, correct?
The sanitation truck will be paid 100% from revenues from the sanitation fund.
Okay.
The streets for the drop to the construction fund is $4,219,213 based on the estimates that were provided by city staff. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to also mention to say when I started, if there's any questions, ask them as we go along so that we can make sure that we understand if there's a question.
I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
When we initially looked at the amount that was going to be financed, I know we increased by at least $400,000 from the Sergeant, because of the Sergeant Trevino Road. And you put that the project fund is 4.2119, including, that was the initial talk, including the San Antonio, Sergeant Trevino Road. We're still at 4.2?
Yes. If we flip back to the previous page, look at your look at all of the projects in blue. Okay? If you total all of those are your $4,219,000.
So I guess the only thing that the
only thing we deleted or not included in this financing is the street sweeper and the road patcher.
The road patcher, which is the one that I was really hoping we could get.
Right.
Okay, then my question is going to be, as you're discussing this, the amount that we're going to look in, you're saying that at this point we would not be able to sustain the $220,000 through the general fund.
We would not be able to sustain the $440,000 for the street sweeper and the street patcher.
What about the $220,000? Well, I guess not either. Is that what you're saying?
No, the
either
220
one.
And the 220 is the 440.
Anything above. So when we're including the extra $120,000 finance cost for the 4.3 that you come to as total uses of funds, we are increasing a little bit more. That's going to be absorbed through this.
That is correct.
Okay.
And on the sanitation, the financing cost is $7,000, and your total would be $290,000, and your project sources of uses to match the par amount of the certificates is $4,630,000. Now let's go category by category on how this is arrived at and some of the details. Delivery of funds, we've been asked that question, when will we have the funds? We're talking about November the 24th, according to the timetable that we have. The true interest costs on the certificates, we're looking at $377. The first interest payment is $215.16. That payment will come from the interest in sinking fund. There will be no tax on that. And the reason we did that, Mayor and members of the City Commission, is that we don't like to do long payments, too much time, because it makes it a very big payment at the end. So what we do is we just kind of narrow them down and spread them out a little bit, you know, for manageability in the current fiscal year, and that's the reason for that. Your first principal payment, and I want you to notice this here, is $215.23, and you're going to say, why is there such a difference? And I'll show you in a minute. The final maturity is in 35. The average annual debt service for the streets is $324,000, and the repayment revenue stream, INS taxes. Now the sanitation truck, your rate is $297. The effective rate on that is $297, and your first interest payment from the sanitation fund in 16, first principal in 17, and your final maturity is in 22. So we're going about 7 years, okay? And the life expectancy of the vehicle was 10, based on your city staff's estimates that were provided to us. So we're not exceeding the useful life. You're not financing a capital asset longer than its useful life, if you will. And the average annual debt service is 51. Previously, the transfer from the sanitation to the general obligation prior to the debt service being paid was in the vicinity of $73,000, if I recall correctly. And of course, sanitation fund. So if we combine all of that, we're looking at a combined all interest cost of $376 and all of the statistics that we have there. Now, I haven't forgotten your question, Mayor, about the blank, but we'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
The next page, on page 8, is the refunding of the series 04, 05, and 06 in the principal amounts of $750, $705, $3,170,000 for a total of $4,625. Now, under normal circumstances, Mayor, those amounts are so small that we wouldn't do them on their own, but we lumped them all together in conjunction with this new money, and I'll show you how we're playing those savings to help you, or to help the city, I should say. It's a 100% current refunding, the difference being that they're callable, okay, under IRS rules, under the terms of the original indenture.
Okay.
And it's not an advance refunding. In layman's terminology, no prepayment penalty, if you will. So it's allowable to be done. No extension of the original maturity. We're not playing games by saying we're taking these maturities and lowering your payments by extending the maturity. None of that. It's all from higher coupon to lower coupon. That's all it is. Same term, same everything. The present value savings, approximately $150,000 or $325 as a percentage of refunded bonds. The gross savings, approximately $165, mostly realized in what years? 2016 through 18, to help us in the early years where we need the help in the financing.
And it would be 165 for both each year that we would be?
I'll show you the actual amounts that are, how it's broken down. And of course, current statistics assume current bank qualified interest rates plus 50 basis points. Right now, if we were to, because we're issuing less than 10 million in a calendar year, and I checked with your staff, there's been no leases, no other financings where an 8038 has been issued, okay, to where it was reported to IRS. So we're not exceeding the 10 million limitation per calendar year, okay? So after 1/1/16, the clock starts again, and you can issue another 10 million. But the differential in rates between bank qualified and non-bank qualified right now is somewhere between 40 to 60 basis points, depending on where you are on the curve.
So we could disperse the 10, and then after January 1st, another 10.
You can do some more, 10 million. It's 10 million cumulatively every year.
Calendar year.
Calendar year.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Every January 1st.
Every January 1st to December the 31st.
Gotcha.
Now, we also have 50 basis points or 0.5%
in the assumptions of interest rate in running of the debt service and the refundings here. So there's a margin, but remember, we've got some time. Remember, we started this back over here?
Yes.
Okay, so we got to have a little bit of room so that we can realize these things, a little cushion and a little, I don't know, in football terms, what do they call it when they throw the ball to somebody, safety something or other, release or something. I'm not too much of a football player, but I hear the terms on TV. On page 9, the sanitation fund will cover the garbage truck debt service estimated at approximately $50,000 per year from 17 through 22. Interest payment due in fiscal year is a total of $4,300. That would be your interest payment out of the sanitation truck. The water and sewer fund will realize approximately $47,000 gross savings through 25. Now that one doesn't go to the general fund, but because the water and sewer at the time when this financing was done used the tax pledge, they're transferring money from the water and sewer to make the payment on the debt service because it was originally water and sewer debt. So that will be less. So I'm estimating that it'll be approximately $4,000 to $5,000 less a year over the life that we'll be transferring from the water and sewer fund. Not much, but still money that we're realizing. The INET debt service will realize approximately 118 gross debt service through 224, mostly in 216 through 18 to mitigate the impact of the street CIP. That's where we located the savings. You know, from the
bulk of the 118 will be there.
Yeah, from the ones that were not the water and sewer. It is assumed that the INS fund balance, Mayor, and I, to make this work, you remember that we had talked about $400,000?
Yes, sir.
And we actually had a balance of 579, so I took the liberty of taking that whole amount and working with it because I really needed to make this work. Without that, I can't make it work.
The whole amount.
The whole amount.
To make work in what aspect?
Well, I'll show you in a minute. Assuming no growth in tax base and a gradual spending of the INS fund balance, the tax rate impact is 1.35 cents. In addition to that, Mayor, beginning in fiscal years 220, 1.35 cents tax increase is currently an equivalent of $10.29 per year per average home, tax year 215, average home value of 76,204. Now, we just showed you that from a disclosure standpoint of what it would take if you do not grow between now and the years that we talked about. If you stayed at age 16. Now, I want to paint a picture for you of what the values were that we were working with and where we wound up at. When we were doing the preliminary presentations, your assessed valuation for last year was $853 million. We actually got estimates from the appraisal district based on the comments that were presented that the city had grown, et cetera, and we used numbers for at that time of $912 million. We wound up with $816 million in value as a result of the exemptions that were granted by the Hidalgo County Appraisal District upon the protests that were being fielded, and quite frankly, legitimately so, because these are over 65 and they deserve them, quite frankly. So the bottom line is we were at 853, we were projected to go to 912, and we wound up at 816. Now, if you take the differential in value between the 912 and the 816, it turns out to be a loss of about $162,000 based on your existing tax rate of 1689. Hence, the shortness and the compactness of the program. That's where we lost it, Mayor. But anyway, we move on. Now, no tax rate is needed if annual growth of a little bit under 1% per year is realized. Beginning in tax year 16, next year, remember that when we talk about taxes, we talk about tax years. And the way the appraisal district works is whatever the value is at the city of San Juan within its corporate limits, at 1/1 of every year becomes your value. It's captured as your value. Then they go through the process of exemptions and other things that they do, and they come up with a certified value in July. You start your budget, and you use your certified value, and you set your tax rate, and that becomes your value for this subsequent fiscal year. In this particular case, 15-16. Okay? So, assuming we grow by a little bit less than 1%, and I'll show you because I have a sheet that shows that. I think, and the use of this money from the interest and sinking fund that I talked about, I think we can do it without a tax rate increase. The city's tax base would have to grow from the current 816 million to approximately 874, plus gradual spending of the INS fund balance to avoid a tax rate impact, as I said. 58 million increase over these years. Now, we grew more than that this past year. However, the exemptions eroded that. In the 5-year period since 2010, the tax base has grown by 46. However, that number is skewed because of the loss. So it was actually more. Okay?
Talking about the loss from the 65.
Exactly, exactly.
Gotcha.
So let's go on to page 10. This is the one that we talk about, and if you look at the estimated growth let's start on the left side. We start with fiscal year 16. We lost 4.29% in assessed valuation. That was the equivalent of what the effective loss in the percentage, and it was 816. You see that the value that we're using throughout the life of the maturity here is the same value today all the way to year 35. Now, is that realistic? It's very conservative, but it may not be realistic. Okay? The next column, column D, is the existing general obligation debt. The less supporting debt is whatever credit the general fund lent to other funds, whether it was the ADC, the water and sewer, or sanitation, to borrow money at a lower cost, but repaid from other sources. That's what that means. The less serious refunding, Mayor, you were asking where we get to play. That's where your monies are coming into play there. The less the refunding, and it gets you to a net debt. Now, look at the next column where you have the 4,340,000. Remember, that was the amount for the streets. Okay, but look at the blanks that we have there with no principal. That's where your garbage truck goes. Okay, now, included here so it wouldn't skew the calculations, okay? But we know, because I have it here, that the principal payments for 17 will be 45, 45, 50, 50, 50, 50 through 22. So that should take care of your garbage truck. And it'll be there, and it also will give us some help in another area from a legal standpoint. And then the 579, Mayor, if you look, and members of the commission, if you look at column K, that's where we inject it there. And then your net new debt service, and then you can see here that it would require that 135 that we were talking about at the very bottom, or that increase. Yes, sir.
So because the amortization on the truck is 7 years, we're doing interest only for 7 years on the street so that we can carry that money.
And also to help you structure your debt to achieve this program.
Right.
In other words, we're wrapping it around at the bottom, delaying principal and keeping your payments.
Yes.
And if you look at it, if you look at your existing debt, that's where it makes sense to put it.
So I want to go back to the drawing on the drawdown for the 579.
Yes, ma'am.
When you state that we have to take the totality, let's say that we did not have to take that. What is that?
It stays in the interest and sinking fund.
So that we wouldn't be able to...
You can use it for another purpose. Well, only for debt service. You cannot use it for, and you can, debt service, money in the interest and sinking fund or debt service fund, and I use the term synonymously,
right.
Okay, is not to be used for any maintenance or operation purpose, only for debt service under state law.
We want the paver.
I'm sorry, sir?
We want the street paver.
Well, we can,
Help me understand.
there's another alternative that we may have, Mayor, okay? Just bear with me.
Bear with you.
So it's a patcher, right?
Yeah.
It's a patcher, not a paver.
It's actually, it's a street sweeper and a patcher.
Come on, man.
No, there's two, there's two pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, the next sheet is with that 0.97 growth that I was talking about. Okay, that doesn't require a tax rate increase. We still use the 579. We still use the benefits of the refunding, but you go from 816 and 16 to 824, $8 million growth. Very modest. Then you go to 832, very modest. So if we realize this growth that I'm talking about, which is very modest, I mean, normally in the past, people, in this business, they would go with 2 and 3%. In this particular case, we're going with 1% to zero it out. Okay? And the same bank qualified and 50 basis points, etc. Now, any interest rate savings that we can get, okay, any lowering of the debt service, if we feel as we get closer to the sale date, we may come back and say, City Commission, we may have a little bit more room. You know, we may be able to add this as well, but I cannot promise that. That depends on the market. Okay? Now, moving on to the financing team, the financial advisor, bond counsel, paying agent, rating agency, Standard & Poor's, underwriters as to who will buy your debt. That is something that needs to be determined by the City Commission. Doesn't have to be determined today unless you want to determine it today. That's up to you. But we can come back and under another agenda item and appoint an underwriter, you know, to do the transaction. I would say that for $8 million, either 1 or 2, but no more than 2. Okay? Underwriters Council. This is when we say Underwriters Council, there's 2 lawyers here. The bond attorney who represents the city and the Underwriters Council that represents the underwriters. As a matter of policy, from our standpoint, we like to keep those separate and allow the underwriter to choose their own counsel in case down the road there's some sort of a dispute in the process of the pricing or delivery or whatever, that we don't say, the underwriter has complete dignity in that selection, so that we keep the left side and the right side separate. That would be our recommendation. Obviously, it's something that you all should consider. Bond insurance, we did not use bond insurance. If we can qualify it based on the rating and get some benefit out of it, we will apply, you know, for the bond insurance, and that will give you a better rate on top, plus a premium. If that premium is mathematically does not substantiate the savings, then we don't use the insurance. That's how that works. In terms of a schedule of events, we're here tonight on August the 25th. The first publication, and the City Commission would approve the resolution authorizing the publication of the notice of intent to issue the certificates of obligation. Now, you will notice in the resolution that it has an amount of 5.5. It's a little high. It's an amount not to exceed. Obviously, we're not close to that, but what if we need to increase it some because market conditions allow to be able to finance a little bit more under the CIP, and we came back? We don't have to come back and do another publication. It's just for, how should I say, to accommodate any market changes that we have. Your first publication, your second publication, bond rating conference, first reading of the certificates, pricing of the certificates, and of course the City Commission, and delivery back to November the 24th. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, I have some questions.
I'm sure.
When we were looking at the initial, I know you explained about the skewed numbers and then the actual numbers we realized, and then I see your very conservative estimation as to growth, and I understand your point of view on that. Now, you're stating that the benefit of putting $283,000 on top for the sanitation fund is to be able, in essence, you don't have to pay it all at once. You can do something with the money you have, and therefore I'm going to tie some of that extra 574 to work that into this factor. Because my line of thinking was, sanitation fund is a healthy fund. And I don't remember the number, but I think that even in looking at it, there was like 600,000 in there that they could have paid it today, you know, at the end, approve it, and within the next fiscal year could get paid from the sanitation fund. And then the sanitation fund, you know, gets reimbursed. So in other words, we would be able to release $283,000 from this issuance. And so that's why, you know, that's part of the reason you're capturing the 579. And the reason I bring that up is because I had high hopes for 579. That we had talked at one time it was going to be 400, then it started like 800, now it's 5. That's going to be realized in this year that we're looking to capture so that we could reduce this.
Two things, Mayor. Number one, the garbage truck financing on those 7 years is providing principal payments in the minimum amount to be able to qualify this financing and accomplish the bigger financing, if that makes sense. Okay?
I guess it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. If I was to strictly do the street program by itself, okay, it may not be as efficient as doing it in this fashion.
I understand, but if we were to pay it straight out because we have
Well,
it.
I understand, but it doesn't help this financing. It helps the other side, but it doesn't help this particular structuring that I'm talking about.
Correct. But if we were to identify something, the amount of that versus the garbage truck.
Well, the only difference is that where do we get the money to pay for it?
For the long term.
Exactly. Because those first 7 years, that part of the debt service is being paid for effectively by the sanitation fund.
Oh, I understand.
So we've thought about it long and hard, Mayor, long and hard to get to this point. And quite frankly, it was give and take.
A lot of giving.
It was very challenging, and we're still not. I mean, it's still going to be a challenge to get it done. It's not an easy financing. It's a complicated financing. It's got too many moving parts, but that's what it's going to take to get it done. Now, let me give you some good news.
Please.
There are some 07 bonds that have a call date in 17 that I don't want to do them now because it's going to detract in terms of negative arbitrage, but they do provide some more incentives, and as we get closer to the call date, we can come back to you and say we can do those at a later date and do them more efficiently, and those savings can save you because it'll lower your debt service and it'll lower your INS transfers as well.
When we issue these, and I know we have project specific, for example, if we were able to realize some type of assistance that I think we had previously heard several months ago on San Antonio Road, is it going to be the language be broad enough where it will talk about street improvements, or are we going to make it specifically these projects?
You may, I think that if you read your resolution, I think Mr. Ramirez wrote it broad enough that would give you flexibility.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Okay.
Let's speak strictly on the verbiage.
I'm sorry, sir?
The mayor was talking about the verbiage?
What she was saying is does the notice of intent, the way it's written and will be published, is it project limited, or is it amount limited and broad language limited, if you will? And I think the best way to answer that is to read that notice of intent. I think that would, do we have that, Chief?
I'm sure we do.
Yeah.
I guess it just puts some perspective, and I spoke to Mr. Garza earlier, and we talked about some of what we would be realizing this year. You picked the 570 because you believe that's the projected available for before the end of the year, and you're going to capture it at this time?
70?
The 570,000 that you talked about to pay down on.
Oh, no, that's in, you're talking about the 579,000?
Yes.
That's in your checking account.
That you're using.
That is in, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Garza, the interest and sinking fund has a balance of 570? Okay. It's currently money that you have, that you've collected from time and accumulated in that interest and sinking fund.
Okay.
Now, if you start increasing your assessed valuation year by year, those draws are not all going to be necessary. But I'm giving you the worst case scenario right now, and having the flexibility and, quite frankly, the full disclosure.
And as far as, we talk about the future, and we're talking about this year, and then you mentioned, well, next year, you start at 10 million again. I guess in your projections of what we're looking at, if we're stating, and we look at something staying stable, because that's kind of what we're projecting, as far as leverage for the city, and you talk about retiring some of the debt.
Not retiring, refunding.
Okay, refunding. We might make some money available. That's something that if we were to look at the upcoming years, I know that we have to wait, one, because of how much we're leveraged we have outstanding already, and the ability to come back and dip into the possibility of financing something else. Is that something that we look at a gap of
We could
a
very
year,
easily,
2
we could very
years?
easily, going forward, combine that refunding that we're talking about with some new money, but that's all going to be a function, Mayor, back to the growth in your assessed valuation. Because
everything staying stable or the same. If we were to do what we did this year,
then
next
it would be
year,
very difficult.
It would be very difficult, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Remember that 816 million times by 100 times 0.1689 is one number. 912 million times divided by 100 times 0.1689 is a bigger number. And that's the difference.
Mr. Vela, just for clarification, the garbage truck is an additional to the one that we propose in, that's through that's another one. There's going to be 2 garbage trucks, correct, Mr. Vela?
No, sir, just one.
No, yeah, but one through the street improvement project, but then the other one that we're purchasing through our current,
if you want to do 2, you
I
can
didn't know we were doing 2. I thought we were doing 1.
Oh, no, we're doing one with this project, but the other one is, the one that we're covering,
The commercial.
Which one's the front loader? Is it this one, on this one?
that is the garbage truck.
Yeah, but it's not on this project.
Yes.
Through our budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is through our budget, and this is the second one.
So what you're
and
saying
we're
is-
doing 2.
Yes.
We're doing 2 because we said 2.
No, ma'am, under the project is just one.
I understand.
But
When did we decide 2 as a commission? We already decided 2?
But this 2 front-end loaders?
No,
No.
two garbage trucks.
yeah, no,
Because,
yeah.
well, a front loader and a garbage truck. When we had the conversations, we talked about the increase, and we talked about the aging, and we talked about needing only one more garbage truck and what we were doing. And I mean, now I'm looking at 2, and the reason I'm saying why are we now looking at 2 when I thought we had looked at 1, and saying we need 2 of these versus the paver. And when did that decision get made?
The garbage truck or the front loader.
No, that I understand, because that's what we all sat
Yeah,
down and
exactly,
approved.
Yeah.
The second one here, when did this one happen?
Well, this is part of the,
No, I know, but we could have done we could have done a paver instead of a,
I don't think, like Mr. Vela said, I don't think that we can purchase a paver through this program, through this, as he said, on the sweeper and the road patcher.
no, I understand we couldn't, but we could finance.
We're already financing one sanitation vehicle to the tune of the dollars amounts that we talked about right
No, I
here,
understand that.
283,000.
I totally understand.
Now,
It-
I
it
think
does-
what they're saying is that in the budget, there's another vehicle,
Yeah.
Right,
separate and apart from
separate
this.
and
Yeah,
apart.
separate and apart.
Which says to me that that amount could have been used, I understand that it's the enterprise fund, but in this issuance, when we had initially looked, it was factored in. And I guess the reason it's eroded, I guess I'm just, first of all, I'm just surprised we're doing two, and I just never caught that in any of our conversations. And the other is that we've eroded that because of the, couldn't be able to get it because of the increase on the Sergeant Leonel Trevino that we had to do the road. And I'm saying to this commission that, so what we're understanding here is that we're not going to have that available, and we're going to go back to figure out how we're going to maintain our streets, and then this conversation that we had about being able to take care of the streets that we still could do through a paving. And so that's what my disappointment in that I'm seeing.
Mayor, just to, on the clarification on that, on the sanitation truck, on the garbage truck, that wasn't the item that we approved in the budget. In order for this program with Mr. Vela or this financing to occur, we had to include the sanitation truck, the garbage truck. That is why that we're talking about a second vehicle, a second truck here. Other than that, if we would not include it, then we wouldn't be purchasing a second vehicle here. So that's the only reason that second vehicle came into the picture, because part of this financing, there has to be the garbage, the front loader, the garbage truck we're talking about has to be part of that. So, and the other one, it was something that we approved in the budget. Absent this, when we were meeting with Mr. Vela, we said we're already purchasing one already, but he clearly mentioned it to us that we needed to add it here in order for these finances to occur.
So do you want to just purchase one, or what is it that you want to do?
From my perspective, and I guess from my conversations, it really became a part of when we had our discussions. I remember speaking of one, and I remember approving of one, and there was a front loader. And that was it, and now, you're stating that we must do 220, or not 222.
What we're saying is that the garbage truck actually helps, the financing of that helps. We can certainly come back to you and show it to you the other way, if you want to.
Perhaps, yeah, I mean, this is just another option. Let me rewind real quick. The one that we're showing here in this mixed in with the streets is a garbage truck or a front end loader?
Residential.
Residential, right?
Yes, this is residential.
So is it possible to have the option of putting the front end loader with the streets with the paver over here on the financing end, on our end? Because you have to have a garbage truck in there to make it work. Is that right, Chief? So if we were to, instead of a residential, if we were to put the front end loader on Mr. Vela's plan to make it work, and then put the road
we still couldn't do
on
the
the other
road with it, because the sanitation fund's paying for it.
Only for sanitation, not for street
And they're
improvement.
telling, and they're saying, Mr. Vela's saying that to help the financing as far as cost and making it beneficial. I do want to see the other scenario, but he's saying that well, you heard him say it, that if we keep it, that for the financial purposes, this is going to help us. And I think what I'm saying is, unless we can find a way to reduce some of what we have up there, and that's why I said let it be broad enough that we had to revisit, for example, and I'm just stating this now, we have nothing left for other streets. And we're going to talk a little bit about what may be left over from this year that we might be able to dedicate. But if we look at the 1.3 million, or let's look at San Antonio, all those are curb and gutter, is that correct? on San Antonio Avenue. Maybe when we sit together to revisit, would it be something that we could, bless you, that we could look at as for some movement, because it's very possible that next year we're not going to have money. Or we're not going to be able to go out for this kind of if everything stays the same, we're not going to be able to go for any more debt for a while. And so, that being the case, if we cannot change any of the numbers per se to make this happen, because I don't want to take anything off the table, maybe revisit and how we're looking at how we're approaching some of the streets. And I know that we had initially thought that we were going to get some help with the San Antonio Avenue. When we first discussed it, it was put on the table to the tune of, I think we would be at 600,000, would give us money enough for the paver. That might be something we need to revisit. And then maybe even looking into the future of how we actually do San Antonio Road. But I guess my shocker is that that's it. I mean,
Mayor,
we're done.
Let me see if I can add some more clarity to your question, okay? But we need to make sure that we understand the sources of the repayment.
Yes.
The streets is INS, tax rate.
Mm-hmm.
The garbage truck is sanitation fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If Sandra, can you go to slide 10? Okay. You can see right here, my principal amortization for the streets is here. Now, normally, the bond attorney is not going to allow you to go with zero interest for that many years.
Right.
Okay? But if I put street principal here, what's going to happen over here? It's going to make my payment go up. Exactly. But if I put sanitation truck principal here, and it's paid out of the sanitation fund, guess what? It doesn't impact this over here. That's the reason why I was saying that it was actually helping you. Now, for us, from a financing standpoint, it doesn't make any difference if it's this way or whatever way. The only thing that makes a difference is the dollar amount. Okay? But the one thing that we cannot do is pay for street equipment from the sanitation fund.
Right.
Which is obvious.
Chief, going back to South San Antonio, did we reach out to County Commissioner Cantu?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did send a letter
Did we get
to
a
them.
response?
No, not yet, but we're going to follow up on that, Mayor Pro Tem.
You get to talk to us one more time before this
I'm sorry,
petition?
ma'am?
You get to talk to us one more time? You said?
Can I what?
You said you would get to come back to us one more time
I can.
when it comes to, before we finalize about anything that you're seeing maybe.
Oh, yeah. We'll keep you updated as
Yes.
always. All we're asking for now is for authorization to proceed, number one, and number two, for the authorization to publish the notice of intent to issue.
All right, is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Vela. Under item B, consider and approve a resolution authorizing the publication of the city's notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation in amount not to exceed 5.5 million as authorized under state law for purposes of paying contractual obligations of the city to be incurred for certain projects and to pay for the cost of issuance of the certificates of obligation and making other provisions regarding matters incident thereto. Mr. Gonzalez. Chief
Yeah, Mayor,
Gonzalez.
that's part of the program that we just talked about.
Motion for approval.
So move.
Who moved first, please?
Garza?
Who second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor, if I may, I would like to, the mayor can consider, the commission consider item E. We have a representative of TML here that he has a flight
yes,
that he
okay.
has to take as soon as he leaves here, so we want. to
Oh
see if
my,
we
you
can-
should have told me earlier. Consider authorizing interim city this is item E under section 8. Consider authorizing interim city manager to enter into a contract for medical insurance. Ms. Gonzalez?
Mayor, Commissioners, I brought this item at the budget hearing, at the budget meeting. This is something that the commission had wanted me to look into. For the record, this year we were supposed to go out for proposals, but since TML is an intergovernmental pool, we don't have to officially go out for proposals. So what I did was I took the current rate that we have with Blue Cross Blue Shield, who has done a real good job in providing good benefits to the employees, and I went ahead and had TML give us a dollar amount for the coming years, which would be a 3-year renewal or a 3-year contract. The current rate that the city pays for employees is $379.55.
How much?
$379.55. Okay. The monthly premium that TML offers is $377.34. The premium for children with employee and children with Blue Cross Blue Shield is $1,109.90. TML would be $321.56. This is just strictly child, not employee, not including employee. The spouse and employee with TML is $707.25. With Blue Cross Blue Shield, excuse me. With TML, it's $498.32. The family with the Blue Cross Blue Shield currently it's $1,179.66 with the spouse. With TML, it would be $830.40 with just a family, not including the spouse. The difference in their benefits, it's really not much. The only difference in benefits is their out-of-pocket. Currently, Blue Cross Blue Shield has a $6,000 out-of-pocket with $18,000 out-of-network. If you're in the network, it's $6,000. If you're out of the network, it would be $18,000. With TML, it would be $5,000 unlimited with a share of 50% of the cost. Family in the network right now currently is $12,000. Out of the network is $36,000. With TML, it would be $10,000 in network and 50% of the share out of network. The other difference in cost would be the coverage for employees with life and AD&D. Right now, the city currently offered $10,000. TML would offer $25,000. If we were to go with TML, we would have an opportunity to go ahead and have dependent life or life insurance and AD&D 3 times of our wages, which means if you make $100,000, we can get a coverage up to $300,000 without having to go through underwriting. We won't be able to do that with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The other difference, and this I did not mention to you, but there are some fees that are called ACA fees. Those are fees that the Obamacare brought in. They're mandated. The ACA fees currently are $5.25 per employee plus $3 for what they call administrative fees.
Is that per month or per year or what?
That is per employee, Mayor, per year. But the $3 that for the administration, it goes up $1 per employee every year. That cost is taken by by TML. We would not have to pay that. They incur that cost. With Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're currently paying that, and it's paid once a year. Any questions?
Questions?
And I do have Mr. Oh my gosh, I brought my paper. Bauer from TML here if you have any questions that I can't answer.
Okay, I just have one question. You said that, in an example, if you make $100,000 without underwriting, you can go out for $300,000.
Only one time.
Right, one time.
Right.
You said Blue Cross Blue Shield will not offer that.
No.
What do they offer?
Right now, it depends on the age of the employee.
I see.
And we would have to go through underwriting. We would have to go through underwriting. And with, like I said, with TML, it'll only be a one-time. And that's for if we go and go with them.
And picking up that $3 administration fee, TML picks that up?
TML picks up the $525, yes. $525, it's like a little savings for other people that can't pay. And
but they pick up the $525 or the $3?
They pick up everything, the $525 including the $3. So $8.
Wow.
$820, yes.
Per employee per year?
Per employee per year. They handle that cost.
All right.
I want to ask you a question, sir, if you don't mind. I'll make your trip worth a while. One of the things that we've seen in the past when it came to medical insurance was that we contract at one amount one year, the next year we start looking at 25% more, and then we have to haggle this thing and come down. Is TML that kind of, will we be facing that kind of situation where this year it's one and now we're looking at substantially coming back and having to renegotiate?
Excellent question. So we're not for profit. We exist solely to serve cities. And so we have the city of Brownsville, the city of Alamo, South Padre, Rio Grande City. We have 940 different cities that participate in a pool. So our strength really is the rate stability. 15% of our membership got a decrease this year.
Wow.
Less than half had an increase over 5%. And it doesn't matter, as sick as you could possibly be. And unfortunately, smaller cities with one catastrophically ill person, their loss ratio.
Exactly.
The maximum increase that we give out is 22%. And that's the whole idea of the pool is we all work together, and it's no different than what they're doing right now with the Federal Exchange. I mean, it's pooling resources so that there's rate stability. So that is by far kind of, that rate stability is number one, and then as she was alluding to, minimizing the out-of-pocket cost for the covered individual is equally important as it is to serve the cities. And so we have telemedicine embedded in there, no cost for generic drugs. If someone goes to the doctor and gets their annual exam, we mail them a check for $150 because we want people to get engaged in their health and take advantage of the benefits. So early intervention, early diagnosis. So we're really completely different, and it's an awesome benefit plan. And the city of San Juan was with us forever.
Yes,
and
it was.
Just recently.
Yes.
In my lifetime, I've worked there for 10 years. And I don't know what exact time it is you guys left, but we'd love to service you guys again.
And I know we had continuously seen the effect, and I think the employees had not, were not, the ones paying for any kind of changes and increases in rates. And I know there was I don't remember the name of the insurance, and I won't even mention if I did, but one of the things that they offered, and you talked about incentives, one of the things I know that they talked about was that they would be willing to come and hold, clinics. One of them provided an actual in-house blood pressure machine to check, so that employees are keeping tabs, kind of an incentive to keep track of what you're doing for preventive. Do you have anything like that you offer?
Our big push with healthcare reform and the shortage of primary care physicians, and just, people now will eventually, you have to report with your W-2 this year that you have insurance. There's a big concern for people that are in the industry that, there's going to be a shortage of primary care physicians. So our big push is that the employees for the city, they go to a local doctor, they establish a relationship, they get a physical. And if they get a physical, we'll mail them a check for $150. So that's our biggest push.
That's one you have, okay.
That is our biggest push by far.
Okay.
And in doing that process, not only do we get people established with the doctor so that they have a folder with their name on it, but more importantly, if we do, and we do offer on-site biometric screenings and stuff, but the good news is you might get somebody there who would never otherwise get their blood drawn, and so you can't overlook how beneficial that is. But the bad news is, unfortunately, you have a lot of people then who think that, well, I don't need to go to the doctor ever. And that is just, it's a great opportunity, but really where the rubber hits the road is that community interface, and that's why That's probably our biggest program, but we have all kinds of neat things that we do, but it's all
Okay.
hubbed around that one primary program.
And then you'll keep our staff through, emails, through newsletters about what are things that are coming up and coming.
Yeah, unfortunately, Victor Diaz, who is the individual service, he had a prior commitment that he couldn't get out of.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he's here local, and he's here all the time, every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one question, sir. In reference to the yearly exam, is it, based yearly or quarterly or? How?
Yep, it's once every single calendar year, and any individual that's enrolled who's over the age of 18 can qualify.